If you are a business owner, public figure, or in high level of leadership, and you want to curate an abundant, balanced life by uncovering the blocks that stand in your way and tune into your own wisdom, you are in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about personal and professional tools and strategies so that you can elevate your potential, expand your impact, and enjoy your life. I'm your host, Angela Williams. I'm a licensed therapist, coach, guide, speaker, educator, avid beachgoer, and I've helped thousands of clients achieve personal growth and transformation. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to the show. So glad to have you here. We also have a special guest today on this episode, Anika Allen, and she is a friendship consultant and founder of 5-Star Friendships. Her mission is to help people gain and maintain amazing friendships. Anika has consumed years of research confirming how social connection improves physical, mental, and emotional health. She offers group workshops, private consults, and a workbook titled Friendships to Go. This passion stems from Anika's friends who have been there for her in times of devastation and celebration. Many struggle to find their right tribe, and the consequences of loneliness are life-threatening. It brings her immense joy to help people of all ages improve their social health and discover a new level of happiness, one friend at a time. Welcome, Anika.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So glad to have you on the show today. Just for everybody's reference, I was able to hear Anika speak about the research that she has conducted and share a lot about the impacts of loneliness. I thought that was so intriguing and interesting, as myself and a lot of my friends and peers are kind of going through this phase of, okay, so we've shifted and pivoted in life, and so we're looking for, these maybe some more friendships, or how to deepen our current friendships, just with everything we have going on with all of the hats we wear. So I really wanted to bring her on the show. And so, Anika, can you just tell us a little bit more about your background and kind of where you're coming from?
So thank you again for having me. I'm always excited to spread the friendship message. I am a friendship consultant, and when people hear that, they go, "Oh, that's adorable." Like it's something that's really lighthearted. Or sometimes I'll get, "Well, what does that mean?" And I want to help shift our paradigms around health. And so we are used to talking about physical health, have for centuries. It's important to, stay fit, etc. In more recent years, we've been talking about mental health, right? When
Right.
I was growing up, there was no mental health days off work.
Right.
Kids weren't talking about it in school. It's no longer embarrassing to say you have a therapist. So that is great.
Mhm.
Physical health is important. Mental health is important, but we have not spent enough time talking about social health.
Mhm.
And so that's part of my mission, is to let people know it should be prioritized. As a friendship consultant, what I do is really three things. I investigate. You mentioned I'm huge on research. And so I study a lot of people who are studying social connection, and I aggregate it and bring it to you. The second thing I do is communicate. Not only do I read the research, I'm a book nerd. I don't know if you are a reader or if any of your listeners are readers. I
Oh, yes.
love to absorb information. Yes. And so, but I don't want to keep it to myself. And so I communicate with other people in terms of, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And then the last piece of what I do is educating. And that's what you were talking about, the workshops I do, the private consults. I want to investigate, communicate, and then educate and let people know how they can take their friendships to the next level.
Beautiful and so needed. And I thought it was such a niche area, really, because I've never heard of this before. And I thought this was a really cool thing to bring to my audience and spread the word. One of my values is having a holistic approach to health. And so while my background is mental health, I'm always advocating for people to find the different ways that their health is going to be benefited, whether that's through Chinese medicine or social health, right? Like looking into different solutions. So there's always an answer. There's always a solution. It's just we've got to be able to find it, right?
Yes.
So awesome. So the other thing, when Nick and I were talking, we wanted to understand truly, what are these best topics to talk about? What are the hot topics? What are the things that people really need to know about social connection? And I'd love to hear your opinion on this too, Anika, but I'm still in therapy sessions. We're still processing things that happened in COVID. And a lot of the underlying themes are just that fear, the scarcity was kind of there in the background, but it was really about loneliness, that lack of being able to be in community like we were, sharing moments, and especially the fear of sharing that with somebody else. And so I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on the effects of the pandemic and how that's still living with us.
Great question. So I learned through the research that loneliness is deadly. Loneliness can kill you. Isolation for extended periods of time can kill you. And you see those hashtags, no new friends, and people are saying, oh, I like low maintenance friends, people I don't talk to for years. That works in some situations, but I want to shift that thinking that you don't need other people. Everybody's not made for friends. That's only for those extroverts, those social butterflies. Not true. Our own Surgeon General has declared loneliness to be an epidemic. Actually, in the UK, they actually have a minister of loneliness, an actual
Wow.
cabinet position. I think they're called like the loneliness czar. They have a budget and everything specifically designed for social connection because they recognize that there are negative impacts to their economy, to the citizens of their country when they don't connect with other people. That's one of the things that got me started as a friendship consultant. I saw here in the US, our longest running study on happiness done is the study for adult development orchestrated by Harvard. They followed these kids, not kids anymore. We're at over 86 years now, and they continue to monitor them, those from what you would call disadvantaged communities and those from affluent communities. And they looked at them throughout decades to see what is it that determined which ones were happiest, healthiest, lived the longest. And it wasn't their income or their job title, whether they were married or not. It was social connection, the quality of the relationships, the people in their lives. And when we learn, you talked about the pandemic, people started to one of two ways. They either got really comfortable and didn't want to go back out because they were so fearful. And they need to recognize that too much isolation, they have seen, can cut years off your life, equivalent to someone who smokes 15 cigarettes a day. That's insane to me. The other people coming out of the pandemic really recognize I am craving some kind of connection with other people. And they shifted a little bit and tried to get more intentional about making friends. And so the pandemic was a great eye opener. But like any situation, two sides to every coin. People
Sure.
can go through the exact same thing. One person reacts one way, one person reacts another. And some people got further isolated and
Sure.
others were more intentional about staying connected. And I'm here to say for those who are saying, I'm not the kind of person who should have friends, friends aren't necessary, they're a bother, please dispel that myth. If you get connected, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, quality over quantity, but if you get connected with people who care about you, it can add years to your life.
And as a licensed therapist, I totally co-sign this because that's one of the supportive factors we look for when we're talking to our clients is what does your support network look like?
Mhm.
And I just think about my personal experiences as well, going through a very traumatic birth process. It really made a huge difference the amount of people who showed up, who came over, who folded the laundry, who sat with me when I had postpartum depression and anxiety. Like it made a huge, huge impact on my life, and I'm forever grateful. And I don't know how I can ever express that to those people, but it made a huge difference. And I believe that no matter what situation you're going through, it's going to be that quality of connection.
That is absolutely right. And specifically for women, one additional piece of research is over 80%, just over 80% of women will die alone. Like, let that sit with you. Over 80% of women will die alone. And, that's not surprising. In this country, men typically die earlier than women. So whether you never got married, whether you divorced or widowed, or by some other choice, more than likely, if you are a woman, when you get into your senior years, you won't have a partner with you. And who else do you think those people rely on? Those who go through those golden years better, who are healthier, who recover from illnesses better. Countless studies show it's those who have a good network of friends.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's so interesting and helpful for us. That's where I really get looking at those senior living communities. Like it kind of gives a different light on them as like they're active and they're really enjoying each other socially and things like that. So that is a helpful reframe there as well.
You don't want to wait until you're in your 70s to start making friendships. You need to start
Right.
investing now so that you can reap the benefits later.
Exactly, exactly. As Anika and I were talking, we were trying to land on what specific topic that we want to talk about today. And I know we're going to do our best to get as much goodness in as possible because as I polled folks, I asked them, what's the most important topic that you want to hear about from a friendship expert and consultant? And the options were how to make friends after your 30s, how to sustain friendships with businesses, kids, with all those hats we wear, and then how to make friends after networking. Like, what do we do? How can we move this relationship forward? So I asked Anika if she would kind of give us a little bit of all three. And then, of course, we can kind of go in depth more at a different time or maybe in a group session or something like that. Anika, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you wouldn't mind giving us some updates or some pointers of what you found in the research and just from practical experience.
I would love to. Yeah. And a lot of this does come from practical experience. You talk about your friends and your community being there for you after you went through childbirth. And I had some things happen to me in my life and would not have made it through. I mean, I would have, but not nearly as well as or been as healed if I did not have those friends. And so for the question around making friends after a certain age, right? Post 30, we're out of that bubble. That bubble is when you are in school and it's very regimented and you're around lots of people on a regular basis. And whether you leave high school and go to college, vocational, military, or even get a job, you still have a little bit of a bubble around you where you're in a certain regiment. But once you get out of that structured environment, it can be difficult for people to make friends. And so one of the things I tell them first is you got to prioritize it. A lot of people, we talked about it, they know physical health is important and emotional, but they don't know social health. They don't know that they need to be investing in those friendships because it'll benefit them in the long run. So that's the first thing. You have to know it should be a priority in your life, just as important as drinking water or getting sleep. You should challenge yourself to make so many social connections a month, right? I like to say at least twice a month that you are out engaging with other people. The second thing I tell people in terms of how to make friends after age 30 or into adulthood, you got to open up your mind. A lot of times we feel like our person is going to be just like us. So your new bestie, and let's get out of the term BFFs, right? You don't have to give one label to one person, but I'm in a book club. I've told you I'm a book nerd, have been for years. Even when I moved to different cities, I found a new book club. There are women there who I became friends with. If I saw them on the street, I wouldn't think that we would be friends. We are not the same race. We're not the same age, generation. We don't have the same backgrounds, religious. We are totally separate, and they have been ride or dies for me. So I would say open up your mind and not be so closed-minded that your friends need to look exactly like you or have to come from the same experience as you. So I would challenge people who are listening to say, let me think right now about my circle and how many of those men or women come from a different background than me or can offer a different opinion. Most of the times they look like us. So that's another way that we can make friends, is to get out of that mindset. The other thing is you have to initiate, right? You have to
Yes.
be okay. How many times have you been out somewhere? You maybe met somebody in line at the post office, at a kids thing, you met another mom, you thought she had a cool vibe, or you could be a guy, have somebody at work, and you're like, oh, I don't want to mix work and play. And you don't take the initiative to just ask them out on a platonic friend date. That's something I cover in my workshop, how to ask somebody out on a platonic friend date without seeming needy or desperate. And sometimes we're just too afraid to do it. You asked me to share some research. There was a study done with commuters. So you're going to work on the train, and they took two groups. They said, this group, don't do anything different than you normally do. Just get on the train. And most of the time, what do? We get on our cell phone. You just say, please don't let anybody talk to me. And then you get off at your stop. And the other group, they said, I want you to have a conversation with a stranger, right? And I know most people will be like, oh, I wouldn't want to be in that second group. But they said, I need you to have and initiate a conversation with the stranger. They asked both groups how terrifying did they think it would be? How difficult did they think the commute ride would be? And so they did it at the end of the experiment, done over and over again. Overwhelmingly, most of the people said it was a much more enjoyable ride when they initiated a conversation with the stranger. And their initial thoughts about how terrifying and awkward it would be, they weren't nearly, they exaggerated how difficult they thought it would be. Now, obviously, those people who are, in the New Yorks or the DCs or the places that have community, you're not going to approach somebody who's clearly saying, I don't want to be bothered, right? Somebody who has a scary kind of toxic energy. We're not talking about those people, but you're just sitting next to someone and you have no idea how many times you might learn something. Has that happened to you before,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you are in a waiting room and you, or maybe a friend that you have now, that it started off with just a conversation and you had no idea this would be somebody who would be in your inner circle? It started from a conversation.
Actually, I have a friend who we joke about that, we laugh about this all the time, but she came here from a different state to interview for a job at the place I was working. And I guess I became her, I don't know if this was by design or by accident, but just kind of like her tour guide around the office. And I was taking her to show her where the bathroom was. And at the time, the building like had this like crazy roach problem. Again, we're in Florida, the problems that we have here. And I said,
Not only do we have bugs, they fly. Roaches
there.
fly in Florida. For those of you who don't know, they think Disney is all we have. The roaches fly. It's quite traumatic. But go ahead.
Dramatic. Yeah, that's a great word. I came from up north, so that's not.
Me too.
Anyway, so I went in the bathroom first and checked it, and I said, "Okay, you're good, no roaches." And she thought it was the funniest thing ever, and that was kind of something we just kind of went on from there. So you never know what's gonna happen.
You never know. You never know. The other thing, that when you did your poll, you were asking about how to sustain friendship. So let's say you've taken the initiative, you are not a punk, and you say, I have some friends, but I am going through different life stages, which happens. You meet, you guys hang out all the time, it's great. And then somebody has a baby, somebody gets married. We have that a lot. Oh, now the boo is the most important person, and you feel like you're a second priority. Somebody starts a business. At certain ages, we're taking care of our parents. You're a caregiver. Now you're exhausted. There could be any myriad of things. So the first thing I would say is, first of all, don't beat yourself up. Life changes happen, and you're not expected to maintain the exact same connections and friendships that you did before. And on average, research shows that we lose friends about every 7 years. So if you have a friendship that has lasted beyond 7 years, bravo to you. That is not the norm, to have multiple friends. And I'm lucky that I have some friends that have been in my corner from, gosh, college. So that's the first thing. It's okay, as we go through different life stages, that we might have periods or phases when we don't talk to our friends as much.
Are you a high achieving female leader ready to break through your success ceiling? I would love to invite you to join the Aligned Leader Circle, a warm, welcoming space where ambitious and smart female leaders come together to grow. This isn't just about developing your leadership skills, it's about aligning your mindset, emotions, and body wisdom so you can lead with greater ease and purpose. In this exclusive community, you'll experience real transformations, gain deep self-awareness, and connect with women who are committed to thriving. If you're ready to go beyond your limits in a safe, collaborative environment, visit angelamarie.co/individuals to join us at Founders Rates for a limited time only. Now, back to the show.
However, if you value the friendship and you've been listening to the research around how important social connection is, you don't want to let that just die off. And so some of the things you can do is, one, be honest and have a conversation. Because a lot of times you don't say anything. It's just like, oh, she's prioritizing this person, or she doesn't come to the happy hours anymore. And you just start to make assumptions. You don't really check in with that person and say, hey, take a moment to be vulnerable and say, I really miss us hanging out. So I would say, first, be honest.
That's such a great piece that I think we just forget. Like we go on, day to day. We've got all these, like you said, responsibilities and things that come up. And so the more, sometimes it's the hard thing, right? Is to be vulnerable and to say, hey, I miss you. Let's do something. And you're right. We just kind of create a story and go on with that. And it could be completely untrue. And so that's something that even in our therapy sessions that I do, or even in coaching sessions that I do, is we're always looking at what's the story, what's the narrative here that I
Yes.
think is going on, and then let's look for some evidence and let's look for like what do we want it to be and how do we shift that. So yeah, thank you so much for
Yes.
bringing that up. I think that's such an important thing,
Yes.
and it applies to so many things too.
It does. Brene Brown talks about that. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. Of course, she's one of the leading experts on vulnerability, but she talks about it specifically with a dynamic with her and her husband. And something happens on vacation, and she's making one assumption, and excuse me, he making another. And so they have this thing where she says, if he says something to her, or vice versa, she says, the story I'm telling myself is blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And so she has an opportunity, and I know you guys as therapists use this, to repeat back what you think you heard. When you're in a friendship, that can be similar. It is, this is the way I'm feeling. I'm interpreting you not showing up or doing whatever, meaning this. And then they have the opportunity to go, no, 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 I'm just really busy. But you got to go beyond that. You need to go to the point where you're actually setting an alert in your phone, if that's the thing that helps you, or setting a routine, make a meetup. That is a great way so that you already schedule it out every 2 months, once a quarter, or if it's every Friday, we get on the phone, we check in, something that's routine so that you can navigate around it. So if you do have a busy schedule with children or your elder care or your job, you can say, no, I know 2 months from now, we are meeting up, we're going here to do X, Y, and Z. The other thing that we can do in terms of balancing friendships with our busy lives is to not make the meetups so grand. It doesn't always have to be dresses and brunch and checking everybody's calendar, right? You can have friendships that, I heard this the other day, that fold into your normal life. So way to make friends, make time for friends, is to invite them over to your home. And if they're a good friend, it doesn't have to be spick and span clean. You guys can just watch TV together while one person is doing laundry. You can say, hey, I got to run to Target and then over to the farmer's market. Do you want to go? Sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves to have these spectacular meetups, so they have to be formal, where the reservation or a concert or a specific event is involved. And you can stay in touch with people just by folding them into your normal lives. I have done that. My group of friends here in Florida have younger kids than I do. So I'm an empty nester, just became one. Well, I was told to call it a bird launcher, which I love. Empty nester applies, kind of negative connotation. Yeah, I have two sons. A bird launcher means that's the plan. We were supposed to get you to a certain point and let you soar.
Love it.
So I have a 21-year-old who has just graduated a couple months ago from the University of Cincinnati. Very proud of him. And then I have an 18-year-old who's a sophomore going to school at the University of Florida. And so I have more free time than my friends who have little ones. They're still juggling in high school and middle school. And it would be very easy for me to get caught up in my feeling, like she never has time. Well, she doesn't have the same time. So I can go and sit with her while she's at her kid's soccer game or practice. And we can catch up that way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a way to balance if you have a lot going on, to see if there's a ways you can fold those into your regular life.
And I love it's like the pressure off. It's okay. And literally no one cares if your house is like a little untidy. Like
exactly. Exactly. Some of the best times I've had with my friends don't require a bra.
Yeah.
Like, just come over and we're going to chill.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that we were polling that people were interested in was around, what do you do after you've made a connection with somebody at a networking event or some opportunity where you only had a short chance to connect? And I'm going to go back to don't be a punk, right? Because it happens often. We'll say, oh, we should get together. And then you just leave. And then you don't want to follow up because you seem needy or desperate, and you don't. Now, have there been times when I've met somebody at an event or a function and we seem to click, and I say, I'm going to follow up. I get their card, and I do. Couple days or even that evening, I'll say, it was great to meet you. Here's something, maybe you'd be interested in joining me for, and they don't respond or they say no. I make another attempt to invite them somewhere. If they say no, I move on. So we have to learn not to take it personally, but you are not going to make those connections if you don't make the attempts. And sometimes we're just too afraid to make the attempt.
Agreed. And to get a little psychological here, I think we all kind of have this fear of getting hurt or rejected. And I think like that plays a big role in not taking that initiative. But I do agree that really a life skill is, how do we not take things personally? Because a lot of times it might not be about us, right? I mean, I'm sure you can come up with your own examples too, but I can't tell you how many times I've tried to reply to somebody like 5 different times, different days of the week, and I just get distracted with the baby or whatever else business. And it's nothing to do with them. It's just, oh my gosh, like my brain's like scattered. So it's really not personal, like pretty much the majority of the time.
Yes, yes. And I think some of it comes with a certain amount of confidence and security you have in yourself. I am one of 2 siblings. It's just myself and my sister. I'm the oldest by only 1 year, but I treat her like she's my child. But it's a certain amount of confidence that comes with a firstborn. Shout out to any other firstborns, bossy ones out there. Yes.
Thanks.
And so when someone doesn't accept my invite or they don't respond to my text, I don't automatically go into what did I do wrong? I'm like, I am fabulous. It is their loss. I don't take it personally because I'm like, I haven't done anything. The other thing is another piece of research. There's something called the liking gap. And basically, it says there's a gap between how much people actually like us and how much we think they like us. So what they did was, first impressions, they say, are everything. So they had people who met, like at a networking function, first impressions with lots of different people. And then they asked the one person, how much did you like that person? On a scale from 1 to 10, based on, a small interaction. And then they asked the other person, how much do you think that person liked you? And where do you think that gap is? We are harder on ourselves. We think they probably didn't like me. I think I laughed too much. Did I have something in my nose? I think I made an off-color joke. Like, we go through all of these things. You talk about overthinking things, and it was unnecessary. And then they ask the other person, they go, no, they seem pretty cool to me. So if we tell ourselves, one, I'm a great person, not a perfect person, a flawed human being, but I'm a good person. I have something to offer another person. And we remind ourselves that we typically underestimate how much people like us. I hope that will help mediate, I guess, a little bit the rejection failing that some people have when the person doesn't reach back out to them.
I love that. And I love that you brought in that research too, because I think that's so important. And I can tell my clients that all the time, but I think like we just need to also find additional layers of evidence for that, of like, yeah, wait a second, I didn't do anything wrong, right? But again, that goes back to that story where if we do have those internal beliefs that maybe we're not good enough or whatever that is, that we go to kind of being hard on ourselves and kind of making it our fault when really, again, like you said, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm awesome. They're kind of some of the beliefs that we also work through as an individual so that we can have a more joyful life going out and being able to seek connections and things like that. And again, not taking things personal when they don't work out. And that can go for business, that can go for relationships, that can really go for a lot.
It can. It can. I have a journal called Friendships to Go, and it walks through, if you want to do it self-paced, walks through something you can do every day to kind of ease you back into socializing. And it starts with looking at your own beliefs around friendship. So I'm glad you brought that up, because if you already have these blocks, these walls, these belief systems that make you either more standoffish or more protective or less likely to initiate, you need to address those first. Things like, again, only extroverts should make friends, or I don't have anything to offer, or if you didn't see adult friendships growing up. My parents, well, they were very different, but my dad is a social butterfly, my mom not so much. But if you grew up in a household and you didn't see your mom saying it's girls' night, I'm gone, or your dad didn't have a lodge or a bowling league or a fraternity or sorority or something, that's not normal to you. You don't think that is. Or there are families who are like, family business stays in the family. Nothing leaves this house. You don't go and talk about your business with other people. And so you never had a chance to get those deeper friendships, because in order to have a close friendship, it requires some vulnerability, some sharing of what you're going through. So yeah, those belief systems and all those things from our childhood all weave into how comfortable or uncomfortable we are making friends.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it any better. And I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So I do agree. And again, it starts by looking in and seeing what's going on. What's the story? And
Mhm.
how do we change that? What's the vision? That's the next part. What's the vision for where we want to go? What we want to do with that? And that is something I actually do in a vision course that I have is we go through what is the health of all these different areas, social, personal relationships, my romantic relationships, my finances, all those different things. And we
Awesome.
assess first, and then we kind of go through, okay, what do we need to do to address these things? So I think you're so right. And it's been a pleasure talking about this with you. And you were able to really get through it so quickly too.
I hope I didn't talk too fast. When I moved down here, they said, you're in the South now, honey, slow down. But I'm used to, like you said, when we come from up north, we're just like,
Yep. We got places to go. People see. So I think that's amazing tips to definitely get started. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. I wanted to share a couple of things. You mentioned a girls' night in. Do you mind sharing that with folks?
Oh, yeah. I was telling you earlier that I'm hosting a girls' night today. I do that periodically every couple of months. I have my friends come over, and I usually give them an assignment. Again, as a nerd, they'll be like, what's the homework? They say that, but they
I
love
love
it.
it.
And the last one that we did show and tell. For those of you out there who remember, you had to come kindergarten in a circle and you had to bring something. And I said, I want all of you to bring something. They're like, well, bring what? I said, bring anything that represents you, anything you want to share. Well, what do you mean? Should it be a souvenir from a vacation? I said, I'm leaving it open. They actually wanted more structure. I said, no, no, no. Bring whatever you want to share, right? And so it was amazing. There were parts we just laughed, and acted like total fools, which is expected when you do a girls' night. But there were moments we were crying. I had one girlfriend, she brought out like 4 objects. She laid them on the table and she said, this is everything I know about my father. And it was like, whoa, okay, about to get deep. I see. All right. We had another person who actually was an Olympian. She was actually competed in the Olympics years ago, and she had a chain with the symbol on there. So just being able to learn and get more information about her experience around being a Olympian was great. I always get prizes, like for the first person to show up and be on time. Gave prizes for great story, that kind of thing. And so it was kindergarten show and tell, but was as adults, and it turned out great. So sometimes you want to do, again, more than just meeting for brunch and having, a color coordinated photo shoot by the selfie wall. We can go a little bit deeper and have some fun, especially if there's chocolate and alcohol involved, which
I love it.
is part of every girl's night in.
Yeah, necessary items. I think that was such a great and creative idea, and that's why I wanted you to share it, because I think, again, sometimes we do want to do more, and it's like, okay, well, then we get stuck on the format. Something that I do that my sister actually had done up north with one of her friends is called a closet swap. So I invite people, we bring clothes and accessories and home goods.
Speaking my language, you're speaking my language. I love it.
I'm inviting you next time. We're going to do this quarterly now, because I feel like I'm always cleaning out my closet. Yeah. So, even if people are not the same sizes, it's okay, because you bring belts and purses and, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then we have some snacks and we all talk, and then all the stuff that's left over gets donated to a good cause after. So it's a really fun time. And again, people really, actually, that I hosted it last time, I think it was a couple months ago, and people like thanked me like for gathering, for bringing people together. And I was like, wow, I guess I really need to do this more often. And it felt good for me too, because I've been in my cave of momhood for the last year. So yeah, that was a good time. But thank you for sharing that example. I think that's great.
I love that. I love that. Tonight we're actually making friendship bracelets. Old school friendship bracelets. We're doing adult versions. Yeah. So we're gonna be doing that again over chocolate and some alcohol as well.
Love it. Anika, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. Can you tell folks how they can get in touch with you?
So you can get in touch with me at my website first, which is 5starfriendships.org. That's spelled out FIVESTAR, 5starfriendships with an S.org. If you go there, get on my VIP list. Takes you 2 seconds. And once a week, I'm going to send you some cool information about friendship. The other thing, you can get to all of my social media there as well. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at 5-Star Friendships, FIVESTAR Friendships. So my website has all of my information around the journals that I sell, called Friendships to Go, to help people step by step get more social. It tells you how to ask questions at social events, who to reach out to first, because a lot of times we get intimidated because we're like, I don't want to talk to a stranger. You can work backwards. Think about people who you've lost contact with and start there first. Somebody you went to school with, an old coworker, a neighbor. More than likely, they're going to be happy to hear from you. Even if it's been years, it's okay. But that's easier to start there than to start with a stranger sometimes. Also, I have my workshops and my one-on-one consultation. And I also do speaking engagements. So whether it's, hundreds of people or dozens of people, I am always excited to spread the friendship message. So I'm available to be booked for speaking engagements as well.
Very exciting. Thank you so much, Anika. I'm sure you're going to get an outpouring of contacts after this. I think this is such a great, necessary, helpful, healthy topic, right, for all of us to engage in. So again, thank you so much for being here. And everyone that's listening, we're going to put the information in the show notes. So feel free to check out and connect with Anika. You can also reach me. I will leave all my information in the show notes as well, for you to reach out for any of your needs. Thank you so
Thank
much. We'll
you.
catch
It's
you
been
all
an
in the next.
honor. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Catch you in the next episode.
If you're enjoying the Bigger Braver Life show, make sure to subscribe and leave a review so this show gets to more leaders like you. I also invite you to join the weekly newsletter fusing brain science, intuitive-based tools, tips, and strategies for you to elevate your potential, expand your impact, and enjoy your life.
Get started at angelamarie.co.